So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy Ellen. I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Now, who would have thought? Who would have thought there's a part 2 to this punishment series, right? Part 2. The top 10 punishments in history you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. There was a part 2 to this, and it popped up on my screen, and I was like, you know, I put my stomach through a bit of a little, you know how you wring a rag out? That's how my stomach was feeling yesterday a little bit, listening to some of these punishment torture stories. But I'm right back. I'm right back. You know me, I can't get enough of it, bro. Like, we experienced somebody having their skin peeled off, you know, them using the rat method of them heating the whatever, they got the rat trapped in and him digging through your body, being nailed to a stake, being burned, being boiled, like boiled human, like putting you in a bull and lighting the bull on fire and heating you up like an oven. Like, it was a lot to take in. It was a lot to take in. And I saw some of y'all, man, in the comment section, bro. Like, y'all really got a thirst for this. Y'all really got a thirst for this. Y'all was really telling me where I could find or look up, or y'all scare me. Y'all definitely scare me. But we're gonna get into the next part 2 of this video, man. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Join the fam. If y'all have not gone on over to the other channel, man, y'all have been missing out. We've been wilding out over there. That's our little bit more adultish side channel. You know what I mean? So you go over there, you be prepared. Okay? The link should be in the description. Check it out. All right? So let's get to the video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Real quick moment of silence for the haters. That's enough. Now run the likes up. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Let's go.
Welcome back. This video is filled with some of the most horrible things I've ever heard about in my whole entire life, so buckle up. Part 1 wasn't enough, so part 2 has got to do, and I took a lot of your suggestions, so stick around and see if they made it. From terrible to even more terrible, on today's top 10 list, we are going to be covering part 2 of the top 10 punishments in history you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. I'm your host today, Olivia Kozolowski. I'm scared, but let's get right into it. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the blood eagle. This messed up thing was a ritual method of execution that was detailed in late skaldic poetry. In the 2 instances where this horrible punishment was mentioned, the victims, who both happened to be members of the royal family, were placed in the prone position. So, laying flat on their tummies, they had their ribs severed from their spine using a sharp tool, and then they had their lungs pulled out through the opening to create a sort of super messed up, really scary and terrifying pair of wings. Both instances where this insane punishment is said to have happened, the person was being punished for patricide or for killing their own father. So I guess don't do that? I'm not sure what the takeaway from this one is other than, wow, that sounds horrible. I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
Did anybody else just tense up when they talked about sawing and separating and pulling out and using for wings? And damn, savages. But you, on the other hand, you killed your pops and they wasn't playing. So I guess the question is, were they really savages?
I really love my dad. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Pair of Anguish. I don't really like regular pears all that much, but this one definitely sounds like the worst pear probably ever. Like, even worse than the one that's got brown spots all over it. The Pair of Anguish was also known as the choke pear or mouth pear, and I wish we could just stop here and I could let you use your own weird imagination, but we'll keep moseying on through. This torture machine consisted of a metal body that was obviously shaped like a pear normally, but it was divided into different segments, and these segments could be spread apart by the simple turning of a screw. So basically this—
Whoa, where are y'all shoving that at? Where? Y'all saw it when it started setting in on my face, right? Where are y'all thinking about shoving that?
Hair would be put into any kind of orifice, like the mouth, and then it would be slowly expanded, and you see where this is going.
God Like, in your mouth it go. Now you gotta, and then somebody just, it's like a vice going on your head, but in the opposite direction.
Do I need to continue? All right, we're done number 9. Let's keep rolling along. I'm uncomfortable already. In our number 8 spot today, we have the water drip. This one, also referred to as the dripping machine, was a form of mental torture. I know some of these ones that are more psychological don't seem as bad as the horrible forms of physical punishment we've talked about, but that's not necessarily true. This punishment involved cold water, which would slowly be dripped onto a person's scalp, forehead, and face for a prolonged period of time. The pattern of the drops was irregular, and because the water was cold, it was obviously quite jarring, which would cause a person's anxiety to spike as they try and anticipate the next drip. Okay, if this one wasn't gruesome enough.
See, a lot of people will sit there and be like, oh no, I could take that. I thought about that one from yesterday, the one where they sit you in like the white room and it's no color whatsoever, and the people who come in, they're in all white and they don't speak, and how it messes with your, like, thinking about that for a long time, I was like, yo, that could psychologically mess you up, especially once you're let out. And now it just seems like everything is just, it can really mess you up. I thought about that yesterday. I was like, man, like, imagine being in a room with no color to it, and you're just padded, and you're just in there, and you're just stuck in there. And like, can your mind even think about other things? Eventually it can. And what it does to your mind is just, it's kind of like it closes it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really thought about that yesterday, and it was like, yo, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yo, that could mess somebody up. So the same as this, water just dripping at the top of your head, the mental strength. Yeah. Yo, these dudes were creative, sickly creative, but creative nonetheless.
For you, let me add one more kind of water punishment in here for good measure. We also have the forced ingestion of water, which is, exactly that.
Drown.
Forcing someone to drink too much water that they eventually aspirate on it or die from water intoxication, which, yes, is a real thing. In our number 7 spot today, we have Mazzatello. This one was a method of capital punishment that was occasionally used by the Papal States for only some of the most terrible crimes, or crimes that were considered especially loathsome. Basically, the person who was being executed would be led to a scaffold that was located in the public square, because they didn't have Netflix back then, so instead they just watched people die. I don't know, it was weird. I'll keep watching Nailed It instead. But anyway, the person would be accompanied by a priest, and then on this scaffold there would be a coffin and a masked executioner who was dressed in all black. A prayer would be said for the soul of the condemned, and then when the time came, the executioner would swing a mallet into the air and then bring it down on the head of the prisoner. Sometimes this one blow would be enough to take their lives, and sometimes it would merely render them unconscious, which would then lead to their throat being cut.
Bro, can you imagine that's like knocking somebody's brain to the floor. And you're blindfolded, so the anticipation gotta have you like almost shaking and convulsing, because you don't know when it's gonna happen. And to top it off, they pray for you first. And then slit your throat.
Sometimes it would merely render them unconscious, which would then lead to their throat being cut. None of these sound good. This one sucks so bad. I feel bad giving you guys this information. Next video, can it be like top 10 nice, cool, wonderful flowers or something like that? In our number 6 spot today, we have Impalement. This is an unusual form of punishment, and boy, it is cruel. Maybe not quite as gruesome and gory as some of the others today, but this one would have been equally, if not more, terrifying. How am I to know? Like I said last time, how could I ever rank these in any kind of order? They're all just so bad. This is a form of imprisonment that is basically just when a person is sealed within an enclosure that has no exits. While this would surely be a very effective form of psychological torment, this is usually a method that resulted in death. Most instances included people being shut away in small confined spaces such as a coffin, and the
Let that sink in for a second, bro. Huh? A lot of people are claustrophobic. You can't even be in tight spaces. Imagine that messing with you and they're just slowly enclosing you in. Most people will probably pass out before they're done. Just pass out. Talk about walls closing in on you.
prisoner is usually left to pass away from starvation or dehydration. This form of punishment is different from being buried alive because of how the person passes away, since being buried alive usually results in asphyxiation. Okay guys, we're close to being halfway through. We can do it. In our number 5 spot today, we have necklacing. Suddenly I have a desire to never wear jewelry again after learning about this one. Necklacing is a terrifying practice that involves a rubber tire and, unfortunately, a human being, obviously. The rubber tire is filled with petrol, which is then put around the victim's chest and arms and then set ablaze. Yeah, what the heck? I feel like I'm describing a terrible, scary mob sort of a movie right now, but sadly I'm just talking about things people have actually done to each other in real life. I mean, I'm sure you can figure out what happens next, but it is said that this method can take up to 20 minutes for someone to pass away from, and they're just left suffering in the meantime. How horrible. Just like everything else on this list, and it only gets worse. Maybe? I don't know about worse, but it definitely doesn't get better. In our number 4 spot today, we have Molten Metal. Okay, there's gotta be a point where I draw the line.
Bro, it's certain things, man. Being burned, and speaking from a person that's been burned before, like that type of a torture, that type of a, you know what I mean? Like, even when if you ever take a steak and cook it on top of the stove and you sit it in that pan first and it goes, that's your skin. Like, but with this, it's probably burning right through your body. You know what I'm saying? Once it gets to the nerve endings, at that point, do you feel it? Like, do you feel it? It's crazy that I got questions like that. Don't it? Like, at what point in time do you go numb from it? Now watch, it'd be somebody in the comment section that can break it all down. You scare me, whoever you are. You scare me.
Right? I guess not, because you weirdos like to hear about these horribly insane punishments, and I'm here to deliver you what you want. So let's dive right into this whole batch of terrible. This absolutely skin-crawling punishment was a form of capital punishment because there is absolutely no way you'd be surviving after this. While gruesome, this punishment has a fairly simple explanation. Basically, they just poured molten metal or super, super hot liquid metal down the throat of the person being executed. I'll tell you what, that'll certainly do.
Well, you'd rather they ask them to just throw you in a volcano at that point. Like, I mean, why do you gotta just like, they really loved torture back then. You can't tell me otherwise. You know what I mean? They love to see the pain you suffered before you died. No instant bullet to the head or no instant quick death all the time. No, they want to see you suffer.
Do the trick. Usually during this punishment, they would do things to ensure that your throat would be open during the pouring of the hot metal. And to that I have to ask, does it matter? That pain would be excruciating no matter what. But hey, people of the past loved a horrifying spectacle, so what am I to do? In our number 3 spot today, we have Impalement. This is another one that was highly requested by you guys, which makes me wonder, who have you been hanging out with? Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler or something? Okay, that wasn't funny, but seriously,
Now when they say impale, is it like the thing you would pull back and it spring forward and impale you like that? Or Are they throwing stuff at you? Are they just jabbing you?
A little worried about you. Anyway, this was a popular form of punishment for a long time and was most commonly used as a response to crimes against the state, although Mr. Vlad we just mentioned basically just did it to everyone he didn't like, so I suppose to each their own. Impalement was a method of both torture and execution that involved slowly driving a stake or pole or spear or hook or whatever through a person in order to completely or partially perforate the torso.
Where though? I know y'all thinking the same thing what I was thinking. Because if they start from the bottom with that thing, that is not gentle. Woo.
You can impale someone vertically or horizontally if you want to spice it up, and don't worry, it'll suck either way. In some situations, the impaled person would then be put on display for others to see. Sometimes
try to erase that one out your brain, bro. That's like taking a pool stick up to you know what. Woo. Oh my gosh, bro. They don't even lube it up enough. Oh.
This was used as a warning, and other times it was just because they could. Isn't history fun? Mr. G never taught me this in grade 10. In our number 2 spot today, we have drawn and quartered. All right, you guys asked for this one, and I am nothing if not a great listener, so here we go. This was a popular form of punishment and became the statutory penalty for men who were convicted of high treason in the Kingdom of England from 1352, although this form of punishment certainly existed well before that. Basically, whoever the convicted was, they would be secured to some sort of a wooden panel and then drawn by horse to wherever this thing was going down. That wasn't said casually to make light of this horrible punishment. I'm just uncomfy, so I'm trying to keep it cool and casual. So, once at the place of execution, the person would then be hanged, almost to the point of losing their life, but from there they would be emasculated, for lack of a better term, disemboweled, beheaded, and then quartered or chopped into 4 pieces. Alright. And because this simply wasn't enough for some insane reason, the pieces would then be displayed in prominent places across the country. Like, no,
Like, they hanging it up as an example to everybody else. Like, they have your limbs displayed throughout the town or the village as an example. Like, when you wake up in the morning and walk outside or wherever you living at, you see this just as a reminder before you do something crazy. This is what they'll do to you.
pieces would then be displayed in prominent places across the country. Like, no, I don't want to see someone's upper right quadrant while I'm going for breakfast. I'll pass on that. Thank you so much, though. In our number 1 spot today, we have Scafism. All right, you guys, this one is also known as the boats, or being eaten alive, or really whatever way you swing it. It absolutely sucks so badly. This is an ancient method of execution that involved putting someone sandwiched between 2 boats that are stacked on top of one another. From here, they'll feed the person and cover them in milk and honey and then just leave them. From here, the substances on and in the person will fester and attract bugs and other small vermin, which will then basically eat that person who can't fend for themselves alive. Not only would being eaten alive be one of the worst ways to go, but this process was incredibly lengthy and ensured the person suffered for a long time. Like, we're talking over 10 days here. And one of the first written mentions of Scafism, which comes from Plutarch, while talking about the execution of Mithridates, he said, quote, "When the man is manifestly dead, the uppermost boat being taken off, they find his flesh devoured, and swarms of such noisome creatures preying upon, and, as it were, growing to his inwards. In this way, Mithridates, after suffering for 17 days, at last expired." So, yeah, anyway, if Plutarch wants to pay for my therapy after that, I think I'd be really grateful. All right, guys, that has been our list for...
Bro, who comes up with... How do you... Who just sits... Like, I'm at a loss. Bro, they put Buddy in between 2 boats and rub some... What did they say? All kind of stuff on him. And let him be eating alive. Like, I would be on so much of a straight and narrow that I probably wouldn't even speak if I lived in those times. I wouldn't even speak to no... I don't want nobody to get it misconstrued that I'm doing something wrong. Like, the torture, bro, like, They had a real thirst for this, fam. No. No. That's all I can say, bro. No. It took yesterday. How long did it take yesterday for this stuff to get out my brain? A long time. And what I do, I double down. Y'all say more, I come back. Who am I to not give you what you asked for? Yep. Yeah. At the detriment of my mental. Yep. You know how Kanye said, I got a gentle mental? Y'all are giving me a gentle mental. Fam. Whew. This was rough, bro. This was definitely rough. Y'all get at me in the comment section again and I don't know if there's a part 3, but if it is, man, we'll see how I feel tomorrow. All right? Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think and stick around and stay tuned until the next reaction. I'm gone. Peace.